Hi, how are you today? My name's Colton Leahy. I just wanted to give an update on how I felt that fall and winter would go this time around. I already gave my projection for summer, and if you go back and watch that video, you can see how I accurately predicted the intense temperature readings that I knew would be well above 31 degrees. I wasn't expecting it to go as high as 37, I'll be the first to admit that. I also didn't expect it to be 3 consecutive heat waves in a row and to last for 3 days. It's completely unheard of. I would reason that many Cape Bretoners are starting to understand that and acknowledge that our weather has not been normal. Not recently and not for a while. It's been getting radically worse. And it's going to continue to get worse as time progresses, as these programs, these climate engineering programs, continue to unravel the state of the planet and the web of life. And it's important to use these science terminologies like geoengineering, climate engineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement, because they lead to scholarly articles, to academia, to science-related articles, sources. And it's better to get directly to the source rather than to read these conspiracy websites that we occasionally find. Usually when you search in chemtrails, you end up with Alex Jones's InfoWars or other conspiracy-like websites. And I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm just saying that in order to be taken seriously and in order to use a reputable source, we have to avoid the conspiracy term chemtrails, and we have to stick to the science terms. It's the only way to garner credible awareness on this topic, and that's why I use the terminologies that I use, and I avoid using the chemtrails term at all costs. Now, you'll have to excuse me, I know I look like Gandalf the Grey right now, but when I woke up this morning, it felt very freezing. And, that's due in part to the chemical ice nucleation effect that the geoengineers spray into our skies to cool down the air mass. I already did a video on this called What is Chemical Ice Nucleation, if you wanted to see more on that topic. Long story short, chemical ice nucleation is a process where water particles are cooled down when you spray certain heavy metal elements like ammonium nitrate and potassium nitrate, and it mixes in with the water moisture in the air. It creates the endothermic reaction that's necessary to cool down that whole air mass, and by the time it reaches the surface, the mercury in our thermometers begin to drop. This is how they have been engineering snowstorms in the wintertime. This is how they're going to engineer snowstorm in winter of 2019. It's always the same. It'll end up hitting us like a ton of bricks, winter I mean, just as hard as summer hit us, because that's how these extremes work. That's how geoengineering works. It goes from one extreme to another. We get the chemical ice nucleated cool down, and then about a week or two later we get the intense heat up. And right now, since we're in our cool down phase here in September, you can expect that we're going to have a radical heating up in the next, I would say, week or so, because that's how this works. We might even end up getting another heat wave. It's too early to rule that out as well. These hot temperatures will persist into October. I would say 25 degrees C and up. We might even hit the 30-degree mark while we're in October. That's how long summer is going to persist. It's almost like the seasons are regressing, like they're moving back 1 month. So we're seeing winter come earlier, we're seeing summer come earlier, and this is due in part to the manipulation of the jet stream. By manipulating the jet stream, you're controlling a lot of the weather effects all over the world, because a lot of our weather is dependent on the jet stream, and it's also dependent on the Arctic as well, and it's important not to forget that. The Arctic is like a giant thermostat that controls the overall temperature of the whole globe. And as the ice continues to melt, of course, we can expect that temperatures will get higher, but it's not just that either. there is a blanketed effect due to the particles that are being sprayed in the upper atmosphere. It traps the heat inside. And by doing this, it causes the temperatures in our thermometers to go up radically. So again, by trapping heat inside, by putting blankets up into the sky, you're causing these heat up effects to happen much quicker. Also, when we have forest fires, that intense smoke buildup also traps heat inside of the atmosphere as well. But moving on from that topic, I know for a fact that we're going to have intense rainfall events in the fall. And the reason I know this is because on a warming planet, moisture evaporates quicker. There's only so much you can do with all that moisture. What the geoengineers try to do is they will migrate the moisture to an area that they feel needs to be cooled down for whatever purpose. Usually it's in the east. So they will take moisture that's supposed to head to the west side of the States or of Canada. They will chemically ice nucleate it. They will manipulate the jet stream and push that cold air like a fan over the eastern side of the continent. This serves to drop the temperatures in our thermometers and to keep them cool. But in the long term, it creates a heat wave and it creates a rapid warm-up in the long term. That's what happens whenever they do this cool down. The heat wave comes after. That you can always expect that with geoengineering from one extreme to another. So again, the reason why I haven't made videos so recently, I've been trying to get my life back together. I'm going back to school and I'm trying to get a part-time job. It's really difficult, you know. I live in a community that's been neglected by our government and those that we thought were our leaders and we thought would take good care of us. Well, some of us thought that. Maybe others knew otherwise, that no one's ever going to, really make any big changes here on this island. It's a dying community. It's a sad community. We're basically like a ghetto here in Canada. It's one of the poorest parts of the country, I would argue. Just my luck, right? Luck of the draw. But even in spite of that, in spite of all this negative news, in spite of people's ignorance, and even in spite of my own personal problems, and believe me, I've been going through a lot of them, I've put my personal feelings aside because I know that this is so much more important. It's so much bigger than me, and it's necessary for me to expose this issue, because if I don't do it, I don't know who else is. I don't see anybody else in line. I don't see anybody else running to the front line to report on these dire issues. And I'm aware that perhaps it has cost me some friendships and my relationship with certain family members, but not all. I've learned that some people they'll hate you no matter what you do. I've learned that I was going to be disowned anyway by someone in my family. It didn't matter about my beliefs. I know that for a fact. They disowned me a long time ago, but the reality of that has only recently hit me. And it's no easy thing to cope with. So when people ask, why I act weird sometimes, why I don't make as many videos or why I seem so depressing and negative, it isn't just to do with the geoengineering. It's also to do with, my own personal issues that I've been going through, family related. I tried my best. That's all I can say. Even in spite of that, I want to go forward and I want to continue to put my best foot forward and give this my best effort. And the only way to do that is to keep making these videos and to keep reporting on this issue and to keep trying to contact government, media agencies, environmental agencies, and every single person I possibly can. Whether willing or unwilling, we don't get a say in that. Whether we're unwilling or not, the future doesn't care, right? Like, the geoengineers don't care either. So they don't care whether we are willing to do this or not. They're going to keep doing what they're doing until someone stops them, until someone says enough is enough. And it certainly can't just be one person. Imagine if it was that easy. We would have had this would have been over already. especially here in Cape Breton, I'm maybe one of the only voices that is speaking out against this, but I'm not saying I am the only one. I know that there are others. Unfortunately, they usually move away because there aren't any job opportunities here, so there's nothing keeping them here to begin with. God, sometimes I don't even know why I still stay here, but sometimes you just have to stick it through. I have like a love-hate relationship with this place, I really do. Anyways, I've rambled on enough. I just wanted to let you know that we're in for a very hot fall and a hot winter. The media is going to say, the weather agency, the National Weather Service, is going to say, oh, here comes El Nino again. And to some degree, yes, El Nino is real, and I acknowledge that. But they are omitting one of the biggest climate factors of all. So, based on that, it's a lie by omission. They're omitting the truth about climate engineering by not mentioning it. And because they're doing that, we don't have the full picture on why the weather is behaving the way it is. And yes, El Nino is responsible for warmer temperatures, but it's not just that. It's not just that. That's a part of the symptom, but it's not the disease itself. The disease is climate engineering. The symptom is the warming oceans. And then the result, you have the weather agency saying, oh, El Nino strikes again, warmer than average temperatures. But they don't tell you why. They don't tell you the real reason why. They avoid that, right? Because they're paid to. And I know it seems hard to believe that such a large organization could be so corrupt, like the Weather Channel and NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. They have an illegal federal gag order that doesn't give them any First Amendment protection. So they are under a gag that prevents them from speaking out against, things like climate engineering or anything, any secrets involving the inner workings of their agency. They aren't allowed to discuss it or disclose it to us. So with that being understood, it's rigged from top to bottom. Criminal organizations are lying to the masses about what's truly transpiring in regard to the weather on the planet. Geoengineering is the largest factor influencing the catastrophic outcomes that we are seeing, from forest fires to flooding to drought to ice storms that are completely unnatural, like when you see the hot side and the cold side to a winter storm. There never was a hot side to a winter storm before, but that's something that has recently been added. And we're going to see more and more of this. Yes, I acknowledge that climate change is real, and I acknowledge that extreme weather events were always predicted. But what I am saying is that a lot of these predictions that are told to us are happening much sooner than anybody was ever informed, than what we anticipated, because they haven't told us the full truth. And there's no reason at this late stage in the game to expect that they ever will. That's where it falls to each and every one of us to try to get this issue out there. If we claim to love and care about our children and our family and our friends, this is something that we have to put ourselves through. And like I said, I've been through hell, not just because of this cause. In fact, this cause might even be a very small part of why it's been so rough on me lately. It's because human nature just has a tendency to, fail. I guess is what I'm trying to say. People let us down all the time. I let myself down. I'm sure I let many of you down as well. But that's no reason to quit. It's no reason to give up. No matter how bad it looks, no matter how hopeless it seems, we need to keep marching forward in this battle. We need to do all that is necessary to expose this issue while we still have time to do so. I know that we're going to get hotter temperatures in October and even November. We might even get another flood. I expect heavy rainfall due to the fact that much of the moisture is going to be migrated over here. We'll see whether I'm right or wrong, but I was already right so far about many of the things that I've said and many of the projections that I've made. I will keep you up to date on what is happening with the weather and the climate. It's not looking so good right now, But that doesn't mean that if we don't pull together and expose this issue, that won't change. But I need each and every one of you to help me proceed, help me get this message out to as many people as possible. And if I'm wrong, and if I'm a fool, if I'm mistaken, I will take the full burden of responsibility. I will. If I'm wrong, I will take that burden. I will deal with that. I'm prepared to deal with that if that's the case. But many of us are not prepared to deal with the consequences of failure if geoengineering is not exposed and halted. Many bad things will transpire, and if you've seen my video on Venus syndrome, you will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that there's no amount of preparation and there's no amount of apprehension that can truly account for the reality of what we are actually facing and what we are dealing with. To use what Dane Wigington often says in his shows, if you were blindfolded on a highway, on a freeway, and there's cars coming at you from both sides, do you have better chances of surviving by running blindly, aimlessly around, hoping not to get hit by a car? Or do you need to take the blindfold off and clearly see what you're up against? You have a much better chance of navigating that freeway without the blindfold, even if the odds still seem against you of surviving. There's still a much better chance to survive with your eyes wide open rather than to wear this blinder and to remain ignorant of issues that are too dire or morbid or sad. Life doesn't ask us for our say. I'm sorry that sounds so cold, but it doesn't. Life does not ask us for our say. It doesn't ask us for our personal feelings. We just do what we must do. We're here for a short time, and we're here for a good time, not a long time, as I'm sure you've heard people say. We need to make the best of this while we have it. If we want to keep the good times rolling, and sometimes we need to roll with a couple of punches, don't we? We need to take the hits. We need to feel dysphoria sometimes. We need to be in a state of discomfort sometimes. Whatever it takes, I'm always going to be here. I'm always going to try. Even if I'm the last man left standing. I'm never going to give up on this. This is my passion because it needs to be. Not because I like it, not because I enjoy telling people stuff that they don't want to hear. People have asked me, why don't you make videos the way you used to, the way when they used to be funny? I made one video recently, that Colton Jones video, but even that I was a little bit wild, and I'm sorry for that. But like I said, it's been hard for me to cope lately. It's been hard because I'm trying to embody two contradictory personalities. One that's lighthearted and funny, that people love to be around, and another that's dark but true. Sad but true. And I try to do both. I try to make people comfortable, but I also make people uncomfortable at the same time. It's no easy thing, especially now that I'm starting college. It's going to be difficult to make this all work out, but I'm going to try. I can't quit. It's too late. It's too late in the game now. If I quit now and then something horrible started happening, I don't know if I'd be able to forgive myself. I'm going to stay on top of this until the very end. So, if you could help any way you can by doing proper research into this topic and by spreading this information to as many as you can, who knows what difference we could make, even in this late hour. I encourage you to look up geoengineeringwatch.org for more details and for information on how you can make a positive contribution to the greater good. Please help us sound the alarm on global climate engineering operations while there's still time to do so. Thank you so much for, as always, looking into my videos and giving me your time. I know that I went way over my limit this time, but this had to be said. I had to give you my reason why I've been away so long. But I'll be making some more videos soon. Trust me on that. Count on it. I'll see you again. and stay healthy and stay fit. Take care of your family.